Many people think that after 7 successful years at Brentford, Thomas Frank has earned the right to coach at a bigger club. But unlike similar clubs in recent years where praise has been focused towards efforts on the pitch, much of Brentford's success has been attributed to how well the club is run off it. In fact, if you were to ask the average Premier League fan to describe Frank's style beyond set pieces, they might struggle. So, with his first tenure at a Big Six club underway, we ask, what will Thomas Frank's Tottenham Hotspur actually look like? Across his time at Brentford, the best word to describe Frank's approach is probably adaptable. Not only did he shift between different structures, with his team comfortably moving between back 3 or back 4 shapes, but he developed a group of players who were comfortable switching between different tactical strategies depending on the opponent. When Brentford made the step up to the Premier League in 2021, they adapted. Frank later spoke about how he and his coaching staff were, quote, developing a way of playing that's a little bit more pragmatic, as they implemented a more defensive style of play to give them a better chance of surviving. But as time went by and Brentford's position in the league became less precarious, Frank attempted to evolve the play style into one that he's called Brentford 2.0. We wanted more control, he explained, and to be more dominant on the ball to create chances. And in the second half of Frank's last season at the club, he had the team playing the most advanced iteration of Brentford 2.0. Starting with a back 4 and a double pivot in front of them, they would move the ball around their back line in deep build-up. However, rather than looking to steadily work the ball down the field, the intention was to buy their teammates time to create the optimal conditions for direct attacks. For example, by having the striker or number 10 abandoning the opposition's defensive line and dragging a defender with them, space would be created that could then be exploited by wingers or fullbacks making out-to-in runs. With these conditions achieved, Brentford would then trigger a change of tempo as they looked to move the ball down the field quickly to attack the space that opened up. And this approach was good enough to earn them a top-half finish in the 24-25 season. Now, thankfully, this style of play actually suits the current Spurs squad quite well. Not only is the squad built with a back 4 system in mind, they also have a raft of players who could be deployed in a double pivot if needed. And then in attacking areas, they have a nice mix of wide forwards who will suit working the ball in wide areas, before making runs in behind or drifting inside to rotate with more advanced fullbacks. Dominic Solanke is the perfect striker for Thomas Frank, being able to play off the shoulder of the last man or drop in and link up deeper on the field. And there's also some nice depth and diversity with Richarlison and Matthias Tell able to deputise him. Perhaps most importantly, James Maddison profiles really well with Mikkel Damsgaard, who was the beating heart of Brentford last season. Although Brentford's double pivot is the fulcrum around which their deep build-up turns, neither of the players in it are really high-volume ball progressors. Now that's partly because a lot of the ball progression is done by the fullbacks, centre-backs and the wingers, but it's also because most of the responsibility for moving the ball up in the midfield area falls to the number 10. Last season, Frank gave Damsgaard a relatively free role. Not only did he do the usual final third creative work that you might expect from an attacking midfielder, he also liked to drop deep to receive the ball and help Brentford with their tempo shifts, both through ball carrying and passing. Under Postecoglou, Maddison was also used in this way, and so Frank will have the vital piece to his Spurs puzzle right from the start. But although Frank's current playstyle suits the Spurs squad, there are still some questions to be raised. Fundamentally, Brentford 2.0 relies on opponents allowing space to open up in their defensive structure, which can then be exploited through tempo change and direct attacking. This works for a mid-table team because oppositions are generally happier to accept the tactical trade-offs against them and push up the pitch. But at a club like Spurs, where the talent ceiling of the squad is higher, allowing space to open out becomes a little riskier, which could result in opponents refusing to accept the gamble. If this happens, Frank's tactical approach might lose its edge against teams who look to sit deeper to avoid being played through. Roberto De Zerbi's 2 seasons at Brighton offer a good example of this happening. After a successful first season, oppositions started to change the way that they played against Brighton, which partly explained why the team dropped from 6th to 11th the following season. So while Thomas Frank's approach is likely to raise the floor at Spurs in the short term, perhaps the question of how his Tottenham will look can only really be answered when we get a sense of where its ceiling is in the long term. And if it's clear that this ceiling is too low, then his success at the club will hang on his ability to evolve. Unfortunately, he has been able to evolve at every step of his career so far. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and James Horncastle. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League football story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.